Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Thanks to a brand new building on Highway 711, it's much easier for visitors to Robeson County to recognize they're in Lumbee Indian Territory. But as nice as the new landmark is, the Lumbees are after a more significant form of recognition, one that comes from Washington.
We have been deprived of that for 100 years. When I think about how close and the possibility it's going to happen, I sleep better. But then I'll wake up an hour later and I'm thinking about these other obstacles that we've got to overcome.
Federal recognition could transform the Lumbees and the land they've called home for centuries. The distinction from the federal government means a list of new privileges for the tribe and tens of millions of dollars in federal aid.
Federal recognition exists to compensate people fairly for land that was stolen in order to develop the nation that we have today.
It's based on the acknowledgement by the federal government that tribes and individual Native people themselves, the indigenous people of this land, owned the land prior to the United States.
Roughly 90% of the nation's Native American tribes, like the Sioux, the Navajo, and the Cherokee, have been given full recognition and the funds that come with it. But the Lumbees have remained on the outside looking in for decades.
It's a political issue because the Lumbee don't meet the sort of expectations that we've imposed on Native American groups.
The tribe is lacking a few characteristics many others have. Things like a common language, an easily defined ancestry, and a centuries-old treaty with the federal government. Congress recognized the Lumbees as an official Indian tribe in 1956, but terminated the financial aid component soon after.
There have been 3 tribes historically subject to similar legislation: the Lumbees and 2 others. Those 2 other tribes, Congress has since rectified their recognition. They have become fully recognized, but Congress has lagged behind on the Lumbees again and again and again for decades.
The treaties and ancestry have been part of the Lumbee struggles to achieve recognition, but the tribe's size has had much more of an impact.
If we were a tribe of 500 people, we would have been federally recognized a long, long time ago.
But there are 55,000 Lumbees, enough to make the tribe the nation's 3rd largest by many estimates. Those who follow the issue say some of the strongest opponents of Lumbee recognition are leaders of other Indian tribes.
The fear is that they will acknowledge the Lumbee and not increase the budget for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and that everyone else will get less.
Those concerns of a same-sized pie being divided in more pieces have dominated the debate for decades. Helping lead the charge against Lumbee recognition has been another North Carolina Indian tribe, the Eastern Band of the Cherokee.
As I understand it, the relationship and the resistance of the Cherokee to the recognition took place 50 years ago also. It's a very sensitive issue.
Senator Richard Burr has learned that lesson well as he's worked to build support for a Lumbee recognition bill in Congress.
This is more a territorial battle about funding than it is a determination of heritage. We've tried to accommodate in the way that the legislation was written that the other tribes are held harmless. But clearly, once they're recognized, it's reliant on what Congress provides in funding in the future.
It remains to be seen whether Lumbee recognition would mean fewer funds for other tribes, but it's clear the federal dollars would reshape Robeson County and members of the Lumbee tribe.
When you have federal recognition coming in and we're able to elevate the quality of life, elevate all those aspects, it takes the pressure off of the local government in terms of trying to support many dollars for Medicare, Medicaid.
Tribe members would be eligible for Indian Health Service care if the Lumbees are recognized, potentially saving the state and county tens of millions of dollars in health care costs. Recognition funds could help in other ways.
30% of Robeson County's population lives below the poverty line, and federal recognition will help a large proportion of those people rise out of that state, because federal dollars will be helping them pay for their housing, be employed in tribal economic development activities.
The funds would go to tribal leaders to be administered and not to individual Lumbees. Scholarship funds are another major benefit of recognition.
We can train the young high school graduates to move on in to go to college or technical school or something of that nature. And that has a rippling effect, in my opinion, for everybody.
There are large concentrations of Lumbee Indians here in Pembroke and across Robeson County, but the tribe itself doesn't own large sections of land where its members live. That's something that probably won't change even if the federal recognition bill is passed, but the way the Lumbee are allowed to use the land they already do own could be in for a dramatic change. That's because federal recognition would put Lumbee land into a federal trust, making it sovereign and free of many taxes and regulations. It's a provision similar to the ones that allow the Cherokee and other tribes to operate casinos. But don't expect any gambling in Robeson County. It's strictly forbidden in the recognition bill before Congress.
The language of gaming, the prospect of gaming is poisonous in Congress right now.
But that's not to say the Lumbees couldn't use their land for other job-generating purposes. Limited taxes and regulations could lure potential employers. The Lumbees have been seeking recognition for decades, but 2010 gives the tribe its best chance yet of getting Washington to sign off on it. The federal agency that oversees Native American affairs is now on board, thanks in part to some pushing from the White House.
For the first time this year, the Bureau of Indian Affairs is in support of the Lumbee recognition. It's only because Barack Obama has said that he will support Lumbee recognition.
The legislation also has the support of both North Carolina senators, Republican Richard Burr and Democrat Kay Hagan.
We have passed the bill out of the committee in the Senate. It is out of the Indian Affairs Committee. It is now ready to be brought forward. The House has already passed it.
But it's run into opposition in the Senate, where senators who represent states with other Indian tribes are believed to be holding the measure up. Even still, Senator Burr is optimistic about the bill's chances.
I'm convinced that recognition is long overdue for the Lumbees. This is never going to happen as a standalone bill. It will only happen if we're able to stick it on an appropriations bill or another vehicle that has to make it through the Congress and signed by the President. That's the only way that we can overcome the objections of a handful of members of Congress that represent other tribal communities.
Back in Pembroke, the recognition fight remains a major topic of discussion.
Just about every day.
And while Sharina Locklear and Chastity Jacobs may be relatively new to the recognition process, they're following it closely.
Oh, my grandmother, it means the world to her. She said she would like to see it actually before she passed it on.
It would help a lot of people. I think it would change us a lot.